Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. 30th favorite dad in the family community, Papa West, Jacob West, here for another episode of TMG Takes the Field, our weekly show where we talk about football in general, college football, and the NFL. Obviously, I'm going to, just like normal, I'm going to start off by myself, and then I will get my good friend Tato in here where we will talk about last week and this week of the NFL. But again, we're going to start off with some college. Um, I can't say a super fun week because I really didn't watch any college football this weekend. Um, was out having a day with my wife. But that being said, definitely was able to look at some things. I'm not completely stupid on college football this week. But again, we're going to talk about what happened last week, what's going to happen this weekend. Starting off with last Friday, Utah traveling to Arizona State. These teams have played each other several times in the Pac 12, but this is the first time they're playing each other in the Big 12. Arizona State gets the win 27-19 and the first upset of the weekend. We have a couple. Alabama on Saturday, Alabama almost on upset alert, almost got getting upsetted, but able to beat South Carolina 27-25. Clemson beat Wake Forest 49-14. Missouri beat Massachusetts 45-3. Penn State beat USC 33-30. Notre Dame beat Stanford 49-7. Pitt beat California 17-15. Illinois beat Purdue 50-49 in overtime. BYU beat Arizona 41-19. Georgia beat Mississippi State 41-31. Tennessee beat Florida 23-17 in overtime. Iowa State beat West Virginia 28-16. Kansas State beat Colorado 31-28. Boise State beat Hawaii 28-7. And then a couple ranked versus ranked matchups. Ole Miss, the number 9 seed, took on LSU, the 13 seed. LSU was victorious. We had a Red River rivalry, Texas versus Oklahoma. Texas 34-3. And then Ohio State, Oregon. Even though Red River was going on, this was probably the most exciting game just as far as going into Saturday, and it did not disappoint. Oregon getting the dub 32-31. Very back and forth game. This game I actually did get to watch a little bit of. And then the ending with Will Howard getting a 3-yard run and sliding as time expired. So definitely a very fun weekend. Well, I didn't get to watch a lot of it. I did get to watch a little bit of it, but definitely packing up what's going to be an exciting week 8 in college football. So Friday we have Oregon taking on. I skipped something. I generally do the top 25 rankings. Forgot to do that. So top 25 rankings. Texas is still number 1. Oregon did bump up to number 2. Penn State bumped up to number 3. Ohio State dropped, but not that far there at number 4. Georgia's at 5. Miami's at 6. Alabama's at 7. LSU is at 8. Iowa State's at 9. Clemson's at 10. Tennessee's at 11. Notre Dame's at 12. BYU's at 13. Texas A&M's at 14. Boise State's at 15. Indiana, the surprise of the year right now, is at 16. Kansas State's at 17. Ole Miss is at 18. Missouri's at 19. Pittsburgh's at 20. SMU's at 21. Illinois is at 22. Army and Navy are both ranked. Army's at 23. Navy's at 25. And then in that military sandwich, we have Michigan at 24. Surprised that they are still ranked, but I don't make the rankings. So now talking about this week, we have Oregon's taking on Purdue, and then BYU's taking on Oklahoma State on Friday. Going into the Saturday games, Miami's taking on Louisville, Clemson's taking on Virginia, Indiana's taking on Nebraska, Missouri's taking on Auburn, Army's taking on East Carolina, Notre Dame's taking on Georgia Tech, Navy's taking on Charlotte, Texas A&M's taking on Mississippi State, LSU is taking on Arkansas, Iowa State's taking on UCF, Kansas State's taking on West Virginia, SMU is taking on Stanford, and then a couple ranked versus ranked matchups. First one is Alabama at Tennessee. Last time these two teams saw each other was a very exciting game with the field goal right at the end, giving Hendon Hooker and the Volunteers the win. Hendon Hooker's not a Volunteer anymore, but it's definitely going to be a very exciting game. Michigan's taking on Illinois. So two teams that are barely ranked but are still ranked in a nice, fun Big Ten matchup. And then the number 5 seed Georgia is traveling to Austin to take on Texas, the number 1 seed. So that's definitely going to be a very, very fun game to watch in SEC matchup. Because it was a new week, we had a little bit of changing on the Heisman favorites. Ashton Genty of Boise State is still at number 1, but making his way up to number 2, Dylan Gabriel of Oregon. A lot of hype beginning of the season. The first 3 or 4 weeks, he definitely fell out of the top 10 in Heisman voting, but he is clawing his way back now, the second favorite to win. Cam Ward's at number 3, Jalen Milrose at 4, Travis Hunter's at 5, Cade Klubnitz at 6, Carson Beck is at 7, Quinn Ewers is at 8, Jackson Dart is 9, Garrett Nussmeier is 10, Drew Aller is 11. So very, very close race, and generally with the Heisman, it usually is, especially going into week 8 where we are we're about halfway done with the college football season. There are always those couple guys who are just out way ahead. This really isn't the case this year. Ashton Genty right now is the favorite, but playing with Boise State, not having a lot of high tier matchups. I don't know if he's going to stay that way. Dylan Gabriel has a not a tough rest of the season. Definitely their hardest one was against Ohio State, but definitely manageable enough to get some stats out. And then hopefully Quinn Ewers can get a nice little bounce too. I am definitely very high on him. But that has been our talk of college football. Now I bring in my very orange friend Tato. Tato, how's it going?
Not bad. It is finally not hot as balls out, so I can actually wear a jersey on the show without sweating my balls off. And hey, Caleb is getting hot, however. Caleb with the second most touchdowns by a Bears rookie quarterback ever. We're a third of the way through the season.
Yes. Definitely a very fun performance. He balled in London. We will talk about that. Normally I try to keep everything a secret as far as how our rankings go, but that being said, we were only different on one, and that was the Monday night game. So I'm just going to go ahead and say right now, for everyone watching, Tato and I did fantastic this week. We both got the Seahawks game wrong. We both thought this, yeah, we thought they'd pull it off. They got close, but not close enough. We got every single game right on Sunday. And then came down to Monday. I had the Jets, you had the Bills. And I was getting really excited because I'm like, I'm gonna go 13-1. And then Aaron Rodgers did Aaron Rodgers things, and the Bills got the win. So you finished off the week at 13-1. I finished off at 12-2. Can't really get much closer than that. That puts you.
I was feeling good until our good friend Alec Miller whipped out his perfect record on the week. Son of a bitch.
To be fair, though, Alec never made those posts public until after.
That's fair.
So there's no telling if he actually made that prediction before the week started. I doubt he would do that, but still. We're talking about it.
I'd be a little out of character for that guy.
Yeah.
Chris Diaz, as it turns out, also went perfect this week in football.
Yeah, he had the best fantasy football week of any fantasy football week either. Also, if you're ever playing fantasy football, never play with Chris Diaz unless you want an easy win. Then play with Chris Diaz.
Back and Larry Johnson. So,
were you a part of that fantasy league that Chris Diaz was a part of?
No, holy shit, yes. That's real.
I believe it was the first iteration of TMG's fantasy football league. it was the year Sam Darnold was a Panther, and he drafted Sam Darnold. He drafted he drafted like the fourth string Panthers wide receiver. He drafted one of their running backs, one of their tight ends, and their defense, all by round 6.
Was the running back at least Christian McCaffrey? No, of course
No,
it
no, it wasn't.
wasn't.
So I messaged him. I'm like, man, are you a Panthers fan? He's like, yeah, I think they're going to be a good team this year. I'm like, oh, that's the only time I've ever heard somebody say, I think the Panthers are going to be a good team this year.
Oof.
Yeah, it was interesting. He had, I want to say he had one of the first picks. So he got, I don't remember who it was, but he got a great wide receiver. And so I was like, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll help you out. But as payment for helping you out, I'm going to send you a trade and you have to accept it. He's like, okay. And so I sent him like my bottom of the barrel running back and 2 wide receivers for his top tier. Might have been Stephon Diggs for his top tier receiver. He accepted it.
I know anything about Stephon Diggs. His relationship with Chris Diaz as a manager can't have been that healthy anyway.
No, I did everybody a favor. So yeah, no, we both did great. This puts us for the season. I'm at 57-35. Tato's at 53-40. So it is still very, very close as we move on to week. Well, actually, we're going to talk about week 6 before we move on to week 7. We didn't talk about week 6 yet. Week 6 started off Thursday night. The 49ers taking on the Seahawks. Very exciting game. 49ers getting the win 36-24. Brock Purdy lit it up, 255 yards, 3 touchdowns. Geno Smith had a decent day, 312 yards and a touchdown. But 2 interceptions does make it hard. That first one being on their first drive in the red zone. I think I missed out on some nice parlays just because Jared Mason did not score a touchdown. I also needed Kenneth Walker to get like 3 more yards, whether that was rushing or receiving. And I'd have had 2 really good parlays hit there. But Tato, any thoughts on this game?
Boo. Basically. Obviously being the one game I got wrong. Yeah, the Niners are scrappy. They're definitely a good 3-3 team. I don't necessarily agree with power rankings that have them over certain 4-2 teams in the NFL, but we'll see how that shakes out at the end of the season.
Yep. Next, we're going to move on to Sunday. Starting off with the London game, the Bears destroyed the Jaguars 35-16. You talked about it a little bit before, but Caleb Williams, 226 yards, 4 touchdowns. Should have been 5, but they did call back one of them. But DeAndre Swift did get a rushing touchdown like the very next play. Taylor, what were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this was so. I was gonna go into work late, but the Bears beat the Jaguars so bad that I just went into work on time because I didn't need to watch the fourth quarter at that point. I was just like, okay, we're good. I'll make the boss happy too. Everyone wins. So yeah, fantastic performance. Caleb coming out of that game, and the first thing he said was, "Man, that was a bad pick," and it was. So for him to acknowledge that, like, and not in like a pity party beating himself up way, just I need to be better kind of way, which is the absolute attitude you want to see out of your quarterback. I think that we can all, any Caleb bust talk is gone fully at this point. I hope. Back in the offensive rookie of the year race, this next week's game will be very important for that, I imagine. But yeah, just fantastic performance. I keep saying it every week. Caleb Williams getting better and better and better. And that's all you want to see. The offense is finally clicking. Yes, it has been against 2 putrid defenses the past couple weeks, but you don't get to pick your schedule. So
it's true.
I'll take the wins, especially it's going to come up Lions games are going to be slightly less scary. We'll obviously talk about that coming up here soon. Yeah, but I'm really excited. I think the Bears have a good shot at making a wild card. They would be first. They would at least have a share of first in 5 other divisions. They just happen to be in what is clearly the best division
toughest division
I've ever seen. I want to say.
I think I think it was the top 4 teams with the highest point differential is the NFC North. I think it was that stat. There's one stat that's like a tough stat, and it's the top 4 are the NFC North.
And there's never been a division with that many wins since realignment in 2002.
Yeah. And this could very well be the year with adding these 7th team into the playoffs that we could see all 4 teams on one division. Back when there were 2 wildcard spots, we saw a couple times where one division would take both of those spots. But since they've done the 3 wildcard spots, we have yet to see that. We've seen it close, but this is probably going to be the year that happens. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more. The only thing that I want to add is I love Doug Peterson, but I was very surprised to not get any news of him being fired. I did have a thought. I did have a thought today though, and I'm like, I wonder if they keep him for Sunday, but if Sunday's his last game regardless.
That's the thing. I'll tack on to that because his halftime speech, he just sounded so lost. He didn't know what he was doing there, and he's a Super Bowl winning coach. Obviously, knows more about. Probably has forgotten more about football than I'll ever know. But just he doesn't seem like he knows what he's doing right now.
He's lost that locker room, and again, the only thing that I'm thinking is because they're in London twice. It's just that we're not going to be like, hey, we're going to London. I imagine they're staying all of this week. And I think that they'll just keep everything as intact as they can. And then next week will be a little bit different. I also kind of wonder when their bye is because I wonder if that could be something.
It should be after the London break. I'm pretty sure that's all it is.
I just looked at it. They do play week 8 and week 9. So I mean, obviously it's coming up. I don't know exactly when it is, but it's kind of something to just keep a lookout for. My thought is leaving London next Sunday, he will not have a job, and that's unless they demolish the Patriots, like the Lions did to a certain team this Sunday. Unless that happens, I do not think he's going to be coaching. And it's very sad to say, but it is what it is. Moving on to the later games with our 1:00 games. The first one we're going to talk about is the Eagles beating the Browns 20-16. It was an ugly win, but a win's a win. Jalen Hurts had probably one of his cleanest games, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns. Having Devontae Smith and AJ Brown back, definitely you could feel he was a little bit more alive. Now we're just, hey, they need to start finishing again. AJ Brown had 116 yards and a touchdown. Devontae Smith, 64 yards and a touchdown. So definitely missing those weapons. Jalen's glad to have him back. Any thoughts on that one, Tato?
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with you. Jalen without his weapons not doing so hot, with the weapons pretty dominant. So it's just one of those things that you hope you get all 3 of those cats together, Brown, Smith, and Goddard.
Which Goddard did get hurt in that game. The same with Jordan Mailata on that elite offensive line. So I haven't heard anything about them yet, but thoughts and prayers out to both of them. Hope we can get them back for this Sunday. Next, we're going to move on. The Texans and Patriots. Drake May making his NFL debut. Did okay. But he played the Texans. Texans won 41-21. CJ Stroud, 192 yards, 3 touchdowns. Joe Mixon, 102 yards and a touchdown. Drake May, again, 243 yards, 3 touchdowns. But unfortunately also threw 2 interceptions. And I believe both of his touchdowns came in the second half too. Um,
Yeah, I think they were both fourth
yeah,
quarter even.
third quarter, with a minute left, or
Okay.
actually he had one right at the end of the first half, and then two towards the end of the second half. So kind of garbage time touchdowns, but hey, that's more than Caleb Williams got in his debut. Any thoughts on that game, Tato?
Yeah, Drake May definitely had like obviously some bad picks and stuff, but that defense is just man, you're not gonna have a good time, no matter who you are. So yeah, shout out that guy. I think the Patriots might be. I think the Patriots offense clicks better with him, so that might be. That might have been a smart play to get him going.
Mhm. All right, next game we have probably the most exciting game as far as the Sunday games went. The Baltimore Ravens took on the Washington Commanders and rookie sensation Jaden Daniels. Um, Jaden had a really good game, but not enough. The Ravens were victorious 30-23. Lamar 323 yards and a touchdown. Derrick Henry 132 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mark Andrews also got his first touchdown. We haven't seen him do anything this year. Jaden Daniels 269 yards and 2 touchdowns. So very exciting game. Kind of a little more competitive than I would hope for. Um, Hating the Commanders, but hey, good football is good football. Tano, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, definite banger of a game. Don't go kick the shit out of opposing fans after you win. Don't go kick the shit out of opposing fans after you lose. Don't get into physical fights over
Don't
football games, people.
don't kick fans. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Next game we have the Packers taking on the Cardinals. Packers won 34-13. Jordan Love 258 yards and 4 touchdowns. Josh Jacobs with 62 yards, no touchdowns, but Kyler Murray did throw for 214 with a touchdown. No Marvin Harrison Jr. I believe he was injured in the middle of the game with a concussion. Um, so we might start seeing a little bit of Kyler's kryptonite. Obviously, he can't see over the line, so he's been doing a lot of just throwing it in the vicinity of Marvin Harrison Jr. Well, when you don't have him, you can't throw it to him. But Jordan Love's definitely playing at the level that we thought we'd see him at this year. A lot of people had him as a favorite for NFL MVP. And if you play like this for 3/4 of the season, yeah, you're probably going to be the MVP. Potato, any other thoughts on this one?
Yeah, man, that was a game of football. I got nothing on that one.
Okay, you're good. Next game, we have the Buccaneers taking on the Saints in Spencer Rattler's NFL debut. But the Buccaneers had a decent second half. Um, they put up almost 30 points in the second half, getting the win 51-27. Baker Mayfield, 324 yards, 4 touchdowns. Um, had a new running back, Tucker, I can't remember his last name, um, with 136 yards. Bucky Irving still did decent with 81 yards and a touchdown. But again, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 touchdowns in the second half, to kind of just end in a demoralizing way, like they did. The Buccaneers are a weird team because we can see them play like crap, which we only saw that once. But this team has been lights out all year, and even their second loss going against the Falcons, they played almost perfect football in that game. So this could be another scary team, whether they're whether they win the division or whether they're a wild card. Um, I wouldn't want to see Tampa Bay in the playoffs. Tato, any thoughts on that game?
Yeah, Tampa Bay definitely beastly. Just yeah, you drop a 50 burger, you deserve to be praised regardless of who the defense is. Even
Yes.
even if it's the worst defense in the NFL, it's not easy to score 50 points. So shout out
Yeah.
those guys. Saints obviously looked they looked really good for a second there.
They look good for 3 weeks.
Yeah. And that one did not shake out. Or has not recently. We'll see if they can get back in the W column. But yeah, shout out Baker Mayfield. I think he for those of you who don't know, I'm taking the year off fantasy football, but Baker Mayfield might have been my Kirk Cousins this year. I think he's one of those guys, and yep.
All right, next game we have the Colts taking on the Titans. Joe Flacco, 8 straight games with 2 touchdowns. That's like the longest active streak. Getting them, it was a close win, but hey, close wins are wins all the same. 20-17. Joe Flacco, 189 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not really a lot else to say about their team. Tennessee Titans, Will Levis only getting 95 yards in typical Will Levis performance with a touchdown and an interception. Tony Pollard had a decent game, 93 yards and a touchdown. But again, just enough to keep it close. But this kind of stat line, if you're playing a really good team, you're going to get blown out of the water. The Colts, not a good team. But hey, they were without Anthony Richardson. It was in Tennessee. Big news coming out of this one. Calvin Ridley did not get a single catch, had a couple targets, but defense played him well. So he's been very unhappy with Tennessee so far. It's amazing. You're a free agent. You have all these offers, and you pick Tennessee, and you're upset with them. I'd be upset with yourself. But Tato, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's sad. He had 8 targets, like 3 of them were somewhere in his vicinity, something. So it's a rough shake.
Yes. All right. Going on to the 4:00 games. First, we have the Chargers taking on the Broncos in Denver. Very much one of those games where it was a tale of 2 halves. First half was all Los Angeles. Second half was all Denver. But the first half was just enough Los Angeles that the Chargers get the win, 23-16. This is the first game that both Harbaugh brothers did get a win on the same day. But Justin Herbert with 237 yards and a touchdown. J.K. Dobbins had a slump for the past 3 weeks. He's back doing J.K. Dobbins things, 96 yards and a touchdown. Bo Nix didn't do horrible, 216 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception, and then also 61 yards running. But again, the Chargers did just enough in that first half to get a nice solid lead so that the Broncos weren't able to catch up. But any thoughts on that one, Tato?
Yeah, Bo Nix, solid comeback attempt. Got that onside, I believe, and just did not get there in the end, unfortunately. But hey, unfortunately for them, fortunately for us, we both picked the Chargers.
That's true. That is true. All right, Steelers taking on the Raiders in the ugliest, most beautiful win I think I've seen. Great defense by Pittsburgh. Probably the only reason that they have won as many games as they have. But Steelers were victorious 32-13. Aiden O'Connell looked horrible, but looking at that line, 227 yards, touchdown, and an interception. He did better than Justin Fields. Justin Fields with 145 yards. But Najee Harris, 106 yards and a touchdown. His touchdown was a 36-yard run that I think should have been called a fumble in the end zone, giving the Raiders the ball. That is just me. Any other thoughts on that game, Tato?
I unfortunately did not see that run, so I can't really comment on that aspect. But yeah, no, I also didn't catch a ton of this game, so no.
So do you remember it was the Steelers played the Patriots and their tight end caught the ball on the 2-yard line, and as he was reaching forward to get it in the end zone, he hit the ground and the ball fell out, and they called it a fumble to give the Patriots the win. Very similar thing happened. Najee Harris, great run, but was diving into the end zone. and he hit the goal line, but it looked like it was coming out right before he crossed the goal line, and sure enough, he hit the goal line. It fell out, went right out of the end zone, but they called it a touchdown still. Little questionable. Next game we have the Falcons taking on the Panthers. This was a lot closer than I thought anybody was anticipating. But the Falcons still victorious, 38-20. Kirk Cousins, 225 yards and a touchdown. Tyler Algier being the workhorse as far as the running game goes, 105 yards and a touchdown. Andy Dalton did have a great game with 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he did get 2 interceptions, which makes it really difficult. Chuba Hubbard had a decent game with 92 yards. It was very much the Panthers were keeping it close, but not making too many mistakes, so to where they couldn't actually capitalize on anything. But kept it a lot closer than I think anybody thought. Any thoughts on this one, Tato?
No.
Okay. The biggest surprise of the week. Well, yes, both of us picked the Lions to win. I don't think we thought it was going to be this much of a win. The Detroit Lions traveling to Dallas were victorious 47-9. It got so bad that linemen were lined up as receivers quite a bit in the end of the at the end of the game.
Remember like 3 weeks ago when the Cowboys didn't lose at Jerry World?
Yeah. All 3 of their losses have been in Dallas. And I was looking at a picture. It had one of their linemen was lined up at receiver, and it was like all this because so and so didn't report as a receiver a couple months ago. I will say, as somebody who hates the Cowboys, I love this game. I can imagine any actual Cowboy fan out there was embarrassed. And then the way Jerry Jones just kind of played off the loss of I was so surprised that a team would have this in them. It's like you are so out of touch with the NFL right now, dude. Jared Goff, 315 yards, 3 touchdowns. David Montgomery, 80 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not a lot to say about this. Just one team, everything was clicking. The other team couldn't do anything. The biggest news coming out of this was obviously the news with Aiden Hutchinson. Broke his fibia in the middle of sacking Dak Prescott. He wrapped up Dak Prescott, kind of swung a little bit, and in that swinging motion, hit his teammate with his shin. And if you have seen the video, it's bad because you can see right there where his foot keeps going forward, his leg does not. But he, everything I've heard, he had surgery immediately after, or I think during the game. They rushed him into surgery immediately. Surgery was successful, but there's no timetable for him to return. Hard to imagine we will see him in the regular season, maybe in the NFC Championship if they get that far. But needless to say, Aiden Hutchinson is going to be out for a while. And there goes our pick for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yep, that's and he was on pace. He was playing like he looked like it. It was between him and TJ at this point, I think. So TJ also playing out of his mind as predicted and stuff. So
the only thing that I can think of that kind of gives us a hope is the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl, there was a little bit of conversation for Carson Wentz to be MVP just because of how great he played in those first 13 games before he tore his ACL.
Or
but
the
he also
Peyton Manning in the year he wasn't even there. That happened.
Yeah.
So if the Lions just fall apart without Hutchinson, maybe.
If the Lions like give up 35 points every single game and nobody else has a decent defensive performance, I mean, it's not out of the picture. It could happen, but it's definitely not. More than likely will not happen, unfortunately.
Yeah. And it sucks it had to happen this way, but I am kind of glad he won't be around to eat Caleb Williams twice.
Yeah, that's At least somebody has a silver lining to this. Next, we're moving on to the Sunday night game. The Bengals taking on the Giants. I don't know why this was Sunday night. Even when the schedule was made, I have no idea why they decided this was going to be the Sunday night game, but they did, and it was a game. The Bengals looked bad, but they got the win 17-7. Joe Burrow, 208 yards, 55 yards rushing, and a touchdown. It's really the only good performance to come out of it. Both these teams didn't really look that good. The Bengals have been very much we're going to play the team we're playing, and we're going to play just a little bit better than them. Getting there, both teams are 2-4 now. But the Bengals have been very surprising because they've had a positive point differential. And Joe Burrow's like touchdown to interception ratio is like 12-2.
Yeah.
Crazy that they are 2-4 right now. But if you watch that performance, it's like, yeah, I can kind of see them being 2-4.
Defense just so ass.
Yeah, it's so bad. But any other thoughts on that one?
No, they're better than the Bengals are better than a 2-4 team, but it's just, yeah, obviously that's the way the dice fall sometimes.
Yeah. All right. And then going on to the Monday night game, the Bills traveling to New Jersey to take on the Jets were victorious 23-20 in another very exciting game. This was also the most penalized game. I believe it was tied for the most amount of penalties, but beat the other game with yards by quite a bit. Both quarterbacks did a great job. Josh Allen, 215 yards with 2 touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers, 294 yards and 2 touchdowns. But unfortunately, Rodgers getting that pick right at the end of the game. I've seen this happen too many times, and it's making me really question this man. He throws a horrible interception. Obviously, with this one, he was throwing it towards Mike Williams. Mike Williams fell, I believe, on the way of coming back. But Bill's safety just ran right there and picked it off. And the way Rodgers was looking after that is like he was looking for a flag. Did the same exact thing with the Vikings, just threw it nowhere near his receiver and is expecting a flag. Why? Who are you mad at? Because it should be you for throwing such a bad pass. But I don't know what he's doing. Maybe we'll see them turn it around. We'll talk about some news that they just did here in a second. But any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, just definitely one of those Aaron Rodgers moments. But I don't know, man. Maybe the Jets will turn it around indeed with some news here.
We'll see. They did just pick up a pretty nice weapon today. News broke earlier this morning that the Raiders are trading Davante Adams to the Jets. Haven't heard anything exactly on what's being traded.
I've got that. It's a third round that is conditional. It will become a second round if Davante is an all-pro, I believe, or if he is on the team and the Jets are in the AFC Championship game.
Okay. So no, this is definitely I'm not gonna say great news. Because if you look at the team, like the issue isn't Rodgers not having enough weapons, because he does have some good weapons. But having somebody with chemistry, having somebody like Davante Adams definitely should see a little bit of a boost there. Plus, with adding an additional weapon that does kind of relieve Garrett Wilson some of that
Coverage.
some of the pressure. So it's like it's never bad to get another weapon, but it's like I don't think that team needed another weapon. But we'll see here in the next couple of weeks what that does. Other news, another wide receiver on the move. Amari Cooper is no longer a Brown. He got traded to the Bills. This one I am looking at right now. The Bills received Cooper and a 2025 sixth-round draft pick for a 2025 third-round draft pick and a seventh-round draft pick in 2026.
I can finally name a Bills receiver.
You can finally name a Bills receiver. I'm glad, even though you have Mac Hollins and Keon Coleman, and Khalil Shakir, or is he a Saint?
I believe Khalil Shakir is a Bill.
Okay, I was about to say the Bill and the Saint. I always confuse the two, and the fact that I can't think of who the Saint is
Now I'm questioning myself. Hey, boy.
is kind of upsetting me. But so we did see two big moves there. Trade deadline is coming up in a couple of weeks, so we might see some more big moves happening. The NFL trade line's never that exciting, but something's telling me this year is going to be a little bit more exciting. Some more news out of New York. Their GM has in fact told Hassan Reddick's agent.
Right,
okay. Hassan Reddick's agent has been informed that he is good to go as far as looking for a trade. There was a little bit of news at the beginning of this year that Hassan wanted traded, but the Jets were not going to do it. They still is not a guarantee that anyone's going to get traded, but usually when this happens, we are a little more likely to get a trade to happen. So as Tato's coming back, I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about Week 7. There's Tato.
Did you you were talking about it? Did you mention that Hassan Reddick just signed with Drew Rosenhaus?
I did not. I know he got dropped.
That trade's happening.
Yeah. I know he got dropped from his original agency. I didn't know he signed a new agent.
One of the best in the biz.
Yes. All right. Any other news that you can think of, Tato, that I did not say?
A couple bit. Yeah, we got the big receiver trades. We got that injury. No firings to discuss. So no, I think that covers it.
Yeah. Next week though, maybe we'll see.
Yes.
All right. So going into Thursday, we have the Denver Broncos traveling to New Orleans to take on the Saints. As of right now, Denver is a 2.5-point favorite. Rashid Shaheed is who I am thinking of.
Okay.
Him and Khalil Shakir are the two that I was confused. Speaking of the dude, he is questionable along with Chris Olave, Taysom Hill, Pete Werner, and Alvin Kamara, all questionable on the Saints. For the Broncos, Pat Surtain, and then Alex Pogzewski. I don't know who that is, but he is questionable as well. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this one. I think this is going to be our first this year typical Thursday night game where we see two teams just kind of struggle to put a good performance on. I don't know why I have this team winning, but I typed out the Saints. So I'm going to pick the Saints to win this one. I don't know why. Probably because they're at home. That's what I'm going to go with. Tato, who do you got?
I got the Broncos here. Bo Nix getting some experience in. Spencer still fresh. The Patrick Surtain of it all, I think, is a very, very big deal on this one because without him just taking away half the field the way he does, they were very susceptible. So we'll see how that one shakes out. But I think even without him, they may be able to get it done against the Saints in the new QB getting his licks in.
Yes. All right. Now moving on to Sunday, we have the London game. Both teams 1-5. The Patriots are taking on the Jaguars. Right now, the Jaguars are 5.5-point favorites. Ramondre Stevenson is questionable. For the Patriots, for the Jaguars, Travis Etienne is doubtful. And then Darnell Savage, one of their safeties, is questionable as well. Tato, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, you mentioned it last week. You do think the Jags get a win in London, but not against the Bears, against the Patriots. I concurred with you then. I remain on that decision. I think the Jags do get it done here. They're probably not gonna. I don't think they lose both in London. It's a tight game. I would still call Jags in America for what it's worth, but I think the London just adds a little bit of a bump. But man, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium looked like Soldier Field the other day.
Yes. Um, I could definitely see this game going either way. Both these teams are so bad that it's like you can't really pick them, but you have to pick one of them. Um, I do think. Again, I don't know if the Jags stayed in London, if they came back just to travel back. I think it'd be stupid if they did. But I mean, the Khans are a very interesting family, that's for sure. But I do have the Jaguars getting this win. Um, I don't know why. Tank Bigsby is coming out of nowhere. That's why. Tank Bigsby. Moving on to the 1 o'clock games. First one is the Eagles taking on the Giants in a Saquon Barkley revenge game. The Eagles are 3-point favorites. But yeah, this some injuries on the Philadelphia side. Darius Slay is questionable. Dallas Goedert's questionable. Jordan Mailata is doubtful. And then with the Giants, Devin Singletary and Malik Neighbors are both questionable. I'm going to go ahead and start off with this one. I do have the Eagles winning. This team likes to win ugly games, and this has the makings of being a very ugly game. I do think the fact that it's a Saquon Barkley revenge game is going to do something just a little extra. He's the reason we beat Green Bay. He's the reason we beat New Orleans. He's going to be the reason that we beat New York.
Yep, I'll agree with you on that one. And the thing with all those questionables is just that the probable designation doesn't exist anymore for all of us old heads. And a lot, so I find those questionables usually kind of lean in that probable.
The other thing too is this is Tuesday, and so all these players have a full week pretty much to heal up. But it is always just that you never know.
Yeah, and I'll throw a bold prediction: Saquon 3 tutties in this game.
Oh, good. All right.
Yeah, I will agree with you, and yeah, add on that.
Equals. All right. Yeah. Next game we have, I think I already wrote down. Yep, I already wrote down that you're picking the Eagles. So next game we have the Titans traveling to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Bills are 8.5-point favorites. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'll just roll with the stats on this one. Bills getting it done. Obviously, Will Levis just not putting anything together right now. Titans offense not clicking. Titans defense not clicking. Bills a really good football team.
But are the Bills a really good football team? Maybe. They had that bounce back win against the Jets. They did have 2 straight losses right before this. I do think that they win, but I also kind of think that they win just because it's the Titans. I think the Amari Cooper pickup was a really good timing because you don't need Amari Cooper to beat the Titans. So it's like, give him the playbook, let him learn, give him this game off.
I think he suits up, but he's not in a ton of. Maybe he doesn't take all the snaps and shit, but definitely suits up. Get some reps in.
Yeah, no, I have the Bills winning. And yeah, I'll say over the 8.5. Next, we have the Texans taking on the Packers in Lambeau. Packers right now are a 2.5-point favorite. I think this is going to be a very exciting game, very similar to the Ravens Commanders game that we just saw this last Sunday.
Hold on 1 second. Texans, Packers. Well, it's like I didn't pick this, so give me a second to type before you call yours. Okay. I missed it on my list somehow.
All right.
Chop that in. Okay.
All right. You ready for me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the Packers are a 2.5-point favorite. One reason I believe they're favorites because they are the home team. Usually, when you're home, you get an extra 3.5-point favorites. So I am going to pick the home team. We're in that time of the year where it starts getting a little colder outside, and so I think Houston's not going to be fully ready for that weather. I think it's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be a close game, but give me the Packers.
Yeah, I also just typed the Packers. Lambeau is a fucking place. As much as I hate to admit it, like that is a home field where home field advantage applies. And like, yeah, I don't know how many Texans fans are going to be making the travel all the way up north to support. Just if I do think it's a close game, I would call it Texans in Houston. But I am going to go Packers with that home field advantage, and I hope I'm wrong because it's getting sick of saying this and being right.
Yeah, no, I get that. Talking about another,
yeah, you don't have to pick your rivals every week because you're not in the best division in football ever.
Yeah. But talking about another team that is another home team that's just a place to play, Minnesota. The Vikings are taking on the Lions in Minnesota. The Vikings are 2.5-point favorites. Obviously, the Lions are going to be without Aiden Hutchinson. He's on the IR, so he's definitely going to be gone for the first 4 weeks. We'll see exactly how long that injury takes him out. But the Vikings just coming off of the bye week, and with that stadium just going skull. I think very fun game, very close game, but somehow the Vikings just edge out the Lions.
Yeah, at any rate, one of my NFC rivals is going to take a bump, and if the Bears get a W, like that should be pretty nice. If the Bears, Vikings, and Lions all come out of this week with 5 wins, maybe things will be okay. I do have the Vikings getting it done here. Again, a game that is super tight, and I am calling kind of based on that home field advantage, but also on the loss of Aiden Hutchinson. Like with that, I think it's going to take them a second to figure out, even if they do grab a Max Crosby, which is definitely rumored. I think it might be a little too late to get this particular W.
Yeah. Are the Bears play this week?
They do not.
I don't think they do. Okay.
Yeah.
You were kind of scaring me with that because I'm looking at my spreadsheet that has the season or has this week's games. And I didn't see the Bears on there. Like, who?
Oh,
Bears
right.
playing?
Yeah. No, I just misspoke.
Okay, you're good. You're good. Next we have the Seahawks traveling to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. Falcons right now are 3-point favorites. They have been on a nice little hot streak. The Seahawks have had a losing streak as of late, so we'll see if they bounce back. Tato, you're going first on this one.
Yeah, I got the Falcons here just because I'm mad at the Seahawks.
I have the Falcons also. Although I wouldn't be surprised if the Seahawks win this one. The Falcons haven't really been playing all that well in Atlanta, which is weird to say about a team not doing well at home, but this team has not really been doing that well at home. But I do again, I think that defense is a lot better than anybody's talking about, and I think they pick off Geno Smith a couple times. He makes some bad choices. Probably going to be a close game. Could be a blowout. We don't know, but I do have the Falcons winning as well. Next game, we have the Bengals traveling to Cleveland to take on the Amari Cooperless Browns. But Deshaun Watson is still their starting quarterback somehow. Right now, the Bengals are 6.5-point favorites. Again, that's a 12-2 touchdown interception ratio for Joe Burrow. And I think that this Bengals team is gonna start turning it around, start getting a couple wins under their belt to get in that playoff conversation because we're starting to get there. We'll get there pretty soon. I have the Bengals winning this one.
Yes, I said the Bengals are better than a 2-4 team, which must mean I think they will become a 3-4 team, which I do. I'm so happy that Deshaun Watson is playing like garbage. 0 for 28 on third down conversions.
No, they got
statistic.
3. They got 3 against the Eagles.
Deshaun, were they rushing?
Okay. I don't remember.
Yeah,
I think one was a throw.
Maybe that stat was from before the game or something, but I read that Deshaun Watson is 0 for 28 on third down conversions. So
it could have been runs. I don't remember. I just remember seeing that stat that they had yet to get a third down conversion going into that game. It was like right as soon as they put the stat up, they were on third down.
Maybe the stat I saw was probably from before the game then.
Or it doesn't matter. Stats are those fun things. It's still hardly any third down conversions. Our next game, we have the Dolphins traveling to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. What's his name? Tua Tagovailoa is still on injured reserve, so he will not be playing against the Colts. But reports are showing that he will be back soon. Anthony Richardson is also on track to be back in this game too. But regardless of who's playing at quarterback for either team, this Dolphins team has looked horrible ever since Tua has not been on the field. So for that reason, I think you're supposed to go first, but I'm going to go first, Tato. The Dolphins have looked horrible without Tua. He's not playing, so they're going to look horrible this week too. I have the Colts winning.
Yep, I also have the Colts, and I would have the Colts, Richardson or Flacco. I think either quarterback there would get it done against the Tua-less Dolphins.
Yeah. All right, next game we have the first of the 4:00 games. The Panthers are traveling to Washington to take on the Commanders. Commanders are 7.5-point favorites. Tato, I will go ahead and let you go first on this one.
And you said Panthers, Commanders, right?
Panthers, Commanders, yes.
Okay, yep. I do have the Commanders coming out on top here. The Panthers are obviously, like I said, not the team I'm going to pick this season, I don't think. I don't know what their remaining schedule is or if they're going to get hot and peel off another W. Though I will say the fact that no team is winless and no team is, we do have a couple undefeateds left, but I think my theory about they're not being, I think, like I said, I think each team will get 3 wins and 3 losses kind of thing. But I do not think the Panthers will pick up 1 here. And Commanders are too good. Jane Daniels is too good.
Yeah. Black, yes, please.
I miss
I'm gonna share the same sentiments. I do think we're starting to see a little bit of a fall for Jaden Daniels, but he's going to turn around in this game. This Panthers defense is not good enough to stop a bloody nose. They're definitely not going to stop Jaden Daniels. Yeah, I have the Commanders winning also. Next game, we have the Raiders. Raiders at the Rams. Right now, the Rams are 7-point favorites, but this is a 2-4 Raiders versus a 1-4 Rams team. Tato, because I skipped you, I'm gonna have you go first on this one.
Yeah, that's cool. Remember that Mickey Rourke wrestling movie? I'm going to go with the Ram Jam here. I think there's a chance Lil Cooper Kupp comes back, and if so, that would be fantastic. But the Raiders are in a hole again, regardless of who their quarterback is. They're just not great. So I think Matt Stafford will come get a good Matt Stafford win here.
Definitely. Fun little tidbit. Matthew Stafford is behind the wooden door. So anybody with sleep number who is taking a part in the door challenge, there's your answer. Matthew Stafford is behind the wooden door. Um, Matthew Stafford is going to walk out from behind the wooden door onto the field and help the Rams get a win versus the Raiders. Nice little fun inside joke there that Tato nobody understands. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Nobody with sleep number watches this video, so nobody's gonna get that joke. Next we have the Chiefs taking on the 49ers. The 49ers are 1.5 point favorites, but Tato, who should pick on this one?
Is this 3 in a row for me now?
Yeah, okay, fine. I'll go first. So the 49ers are 3-3, but their 3 wins have come against the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Jets. So they really have, and the Patriots. Wait, how did I do that? I don't know how I did that. But
3 wins have come against 4 teams.
Yeah, how did I misread that? So they beat the Jets. They lost the Rams. That's what happened. They beat the Jets, they beat the Patriots, and they beat the Seahawks. So I think we expected this 49ers team to be a lot better than they are, because they have really been struggling with these winnable games. And I think, well, yes, Kansas City might be undefeated, but not quite as good as they are undefeated. They are just coming off a bye week, and Andy Reid is pretty much unbeatable coming off a bye week. So I do have the Chiefs winning this game to remain undefeated. But Tato, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I have the Chiefs as well, and I neglected that they were coming off the bye week. But you are absolutely correct in that Andy Reid off the bye week is pretty damned unbeatable. So that just makes me feel even more confident in that pick.
If memory serves me correct, he has had one loss coming off of a bye, and that one loss was his last year in Philadelphia. If memory serves
like
correct,
18-1 or something nuts like that.
Yes. All right. Next game we have Sunday night, the Jets taking on the Steelers. The Jets are 1.5 point favorites, even though it is in Acrisure, because that's the name of the stadium in Pittsburgh. Tato, who is your pick on this one?
I am going with the line on the Jets here. I do think Devontae Adams will add a spark. And then the new coach gets his win that he wasn't able to get last week.
Okay. I think TJ Watt is too good to allow Aaron Rodgers to get the victory here. I have the Steelers winning this game, and I have Aaron Rodgers lying on the ground for over 1.5 minutes in total time.
Okay.
That's not a bet you can make, but if you could make it, I'd make that.
You could
next,
yeah, I suppose.
Next, we have 2 Monday night games. The first one, the Ravens are taking on the Buccaneers in Tampa Bay. Let's see. The Ravens are 3.5 point favorites. I'm going first on this one. One stat that I have said countless times this year, and I will always say countless times, Lamar Jackson is almost unbeatable against NFC teams. I do not think that stat changes this game. I do have the Ravens.
Yep, I'll concur with you on the pick there. Like we said, the Bucks are very, very good, but they're still a 5-10 team, 5-12. The Ravens are a top 4 football team, top 5 at worst. I mean, you got Lions, Vikings, Chiefs, and probably Ravens come up next, I think. Peeling off 4 wins after that freak 0-2 start. Lamar playing at a super level, Derrick Henry playing at a bananas level. Before the season started, I found a Derrick Henry card lying in my parking lot, and ever since then,
nice.
He's been riding around in my moon and my sunroof.
Nice.
Yeah. So he's just posted up in the top of my car.
Just chilling there.
Yep, just chilling. And he's been having a player of the year season. So I think I am to thank for that. And
Yes, he
whoever
has.
doesn't have that card feels stupid right now.
Yes. All right. Well, last game before we call it a week. The Chargers are traveling to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Chargers are 2.5-point favorites. And as of right now, Marvin Harrison is in concussion protocol, so he is questionable. But most players who have a concussion are going to miss that next week. I doubt he will play. And if he is not playing, Kyler doesn't have anyone to throw to. I have the Chargers winning this one. Tato, who do you have winning this one?
Yeah, even if Marvin were to go, I got the Chargers here. They're still a really solid football team. And the Cardinals are hit and miss. They are definitely capable of good performances, but I think the Chargers are just the more steady team.
All right, sounds good. Well, we have another very similar week. Looks like we are only different on two. So again, I will keep the crown for one extra week because I have a 4-game advantage. So I will definitely have the lead after this, but hopefully I'll have a 6-game lead. But thank you for joining me, Tato. Thank you so much for watching. Again, follow us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube, and go support Lights Out Trivia. Thanks. Have a good one. Stay safe. Make smart choices or don't. I don't care. I'm not your dad, but I could be your papa.